Good evening, everyone who's joined tonight's Tama Friends session. We are about to begin. I'd like to thank Ambassador of Italy to Israel for joining us this evening. He will say a few greetings, followed by Tanya Cohen-Uzieli, and then of course we'll have the talk by the director, Matteo Lafranconi. So thank you all for tuning in, and I'd like to introduce you to the Ambassador of Italy to Israel.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the introduction. I understand that I can start this event. Dear Director Cohen-Uzieli, dear friend Tanya, dear Director Lafranconi, dear friends connected, it's a real pleasure for me tonight to welcome in this online event Matteo Lafranconi, the director of Scuderie del Quirinale in Rome and curator of the biggest exhibition ever dedicated to Raphael, Raffaello, on display in Rome until the end of August. I would like, first of all, to thank very much Tanya, director of the Tel Aviv Museum of Art, and all the staff of the museum for kindly hosting this seminar, which I'm happy to say it's going to be the first one of an art talk series dedicated to Italian art, curators, art historians, organized by the Tel Aviv Museum of Art in cooperation with the Italian Cultural Institute and the Italian Embassy in Israel. At the moment, unfortunately, we are obliged to an online version of the event, but we hope to be able to get back very soon to the original format with the possibility of organizing the talks in person with our important guest from Italy. As you all know, the cultural dialogue between Italy and Israel has always been intense. The attraction between our two countries is reciprocal, and the cultural ties are strengthening over time, becoming important generators of exchanges, shared experiences, and mutual enrichment. In this framework, the partnership with the Tel Aviv Museum of Art, one of the leading cultural institutions in Israel, is very significant to us. The museum has been performing a very precious task in Israel by offering the local and international audience incredibly high quality exhibitions and programs in a multicultural environment, and also by playing an essential role in the vibrant cultural life of Tel Aviv. We are very happy and thankful to be able to offer our contribution, adding a touch of Italy to the museum's program. Last year, we had the opportunity to celebrate Leonardo da Vinci in the beautiful auditorium of the museum by hosting a lecture of the director of the Uffizi Galleries, a very successful event with hundreds of people participating. This year, we celebrate another giant of the Renaissance, Raffaello Sanzio, through an online event which sees the participation of even a larger audience, not only from Tel Aviv, but also from all over Israel. Raphael's heritage is universal. His works embody the idea itself of harmony and excellence, and keep on speaking to us through the centuries. The word Renaissance, rinascimento in Italian, has in itself the idea of a restart. And I'm very confident that admiring the beauty of Raphael's works, we all can find the right inspiration even in these very difficult times. The Renaissance man is able to recognize the primacy of art, culture, and science in overcoming the adversities by making the best use of human abilities and skills. The magnificent exhibition curated and directed by Matteo Lafranconi at Scuderie del Quirinale is a unique and once-in-a-lifetime occasion to realize the greatness of the genius of Raphael by seeing, collected for the first time together, more than 100 of his works, coming from prestigious international museums. We are very, very happy tonight to host Matteo Lafranconi and the presentation of this historical exhibition, and we all hope to be able to go to Rome very soon on time to visit it in person. The exhibition reopened on June the 2nd, the same date in which also the Tel Aviv Museum of Art restarted its activities with the public, which is, by the way, also the same date of the Italian National Day. Let me therefore finish this short introduction by saying that I take this coincidence and the presence of Matteo Lafranconi with us today as a very good sign of hope for the future. So thank you very much again, Tania, for the hospitality. Thank you, Matteo, for accepting our invitation. And thank you all of you, for participating to this talk. Grazie a tutti. Toda rabah.
Okay.
The host can unmute.
Hello, good evening to everybody.
Good evening.
I hope that you can hear me. There is a little bit of a noise. I think that you have to unmute yourself.
You have to mute everybody, otherwise you have chaos.
Okay, can you unmute yourself, everybody?
Sure. מצוין, מה קורה?
Good evening, and thank you very much, Ambassador, for the nice introduction. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you here tonight. Here it's a kind of a virtual dimension to this important lecture, The Death of Raphael by Matteo Lafranconi. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Excellency Gianluigi Benedetti, Italian Ambassador to Israel, Fabio Ruggirello, Director of the Italian Cultural Institute, for the ongoing collaboration with the Tel Aviv Museum. And we are honored and grateful for the opportunity to talk about Raphael, the master of painting in the Renaissance period. As the ambassador was saying, ties between countries and their institution provide a vital platform for dialogue and exchange of ideas. It is our belief that here the Tel Aviv Art Museum has as a mission to be a cultural agent, not only to be relevant and responsive to its own community, but also to connect with and reach out to wider global community. And for this, we are delighted to host this event. I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Matteo Lafranconi, Director of the Scuderie del Quirinale, a major exhibition venue in Rome belonging to the Presidency of the Italian Republic and run by the Italian Ministry of Culture. Dr. Lafranconi is a renowned art historian and an international lecturer who has conducted research in Italian, French, Spanish, and Russian history of art between the 15th and the 20th centuries, with an emphasis on museology and history of collection. The Scuderia del Quirinale is a magnificent cultural space. I really wish and hope that each one of you can once visit this place. It's housed in the former Quirinale stables next to the Quirinale Palace, situated on the highest Roman 7 hills. It was inaugurated in 1999. The Scuderia has hosted an impressive array of scholarly and groundbreaking exhibitions devoted to the greatest master of Italian art. Just to name few: Caravaggio, Antonello da Messina, Sandro Botticelli, Titian, and even international important artists. The Scuderia del Quirinale is now exhibiting Raffaello, a tribute to the master of on the 500th anniversary of his death, the biggest exhibition ever devoted to Raphael and his genius. The show includes more than 200 works tracing his life from finish to start, as Matteo will inform us, and is a collaboration with the Florence Uffizi, the Galleria Borghese, and the Vatican museums. This blockbuster exhibition was inaugurated days before the closure due to the pandemic and has now reopened and extended until August 13th. And it's really my hope. On a personal note, I have to say that Raphael is actually the master who, in a way, inspired my studies. As when I was a student in high school in Rome, my school teacher of art history dedicated 3 months only on the study of the School of Athens. So I feel a kind of a personal attachment to this important master. These times of Corona brought us together as a global community and have introduced us in a new virtual dimension to our lives, granting us unprecedented access to the world's art treasure and cultural leaders, once in a lifetime experience and myriad of learning opportunity. So this is why we are offering to our friends of Tel Aviv Art Museum, friends of the Istituto Italiano di Cultura, such as this special evening with Dr. Lafranconi. Dr. Lafranconi, thank you very much for being with us tonight, Matteo. The virtual stage now is yours. Thank you.
Aspetta a mettere il coso, eh?
Aspetta.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see me? Can you see me and hear me? Okay. First of all, thanks, Tanya, thanks to the museum, Tel Aviv Museum, and thanks the Italian Embassy in Tel Aviv for inviting me and host this lecture, which is a privilege for me. Also because, of course, it's a wonderful opportunity to speak to a wider audience, about this demanding endeavor we are hosting now, the Scuderia del Quirinale, which took 3 years of preparation, and that arrived to the end of it exactly 3 days before the lockdown in Italy. So it was extremely frustrating for us to have to close the exhibition immediately after opening without any certainty about the future of it. So it was an incredible happiness and satisfaction for us as soon as we were able to make sure that we will open again. And it has to be also underlined for non-Italian audience that the day of our new opening, June the 2nd, the ambassador reminded us that it is the day of the celebration of the Republic, and it is very important. It was also the day that was meant to be the end of the show in the initial schedule. So the idea of restart, again, I'm quoting the smart words of the ambassador, the idea of a restart symbolized by the exhibition was occasionally and amazingly mirrored by this strange circumstance and not prepared at all. As you all may know and may heard, the exhibition has a very simple title. It's a simple monographic show, Raphael, but there is a trick inside it because we quoted the date of the birth and death of Raphael in inverted order. It means backward march. We started with 1520, which is the date of the death, and after that we quoted the 1483, which is the date of the birth. It is something that was very much discussed about also in the media, and even before the opening. Someone supposed it was just a graphic mistake, and so nobody expected it. That was the key with which we had to interpret our curatorial approach to Raphael in the year of this death. We wanted to create this new order because we wanted to focus on the occasion and on the reason of this celebration, which was the death of Raphael. And once we were starting with the death, we decided to go ahead with this approach and creating a longer course of the exhibition, all the time going backwards. And so the start is an end, the end is a start, and the restart of the exhibition is a new. It was the end of it and then you start again. Renaissance is the word itself reminds us that it was something that is reborn, and this year 2020 is we could also think that is a new birthday of Raphael in the day of his death. We wanted to celebrate the day of the death of Raphael is 6th of April. Is a sacred date for all the scholars, but this year was exactly in the middle of the lockdown, so nobody could even go to the tomb of Raphael in the Pantheon, and it was a pity, of course. But the silence and the desert around this event was also an occasion to concentrate, all of us to concentrate about the significance of it. And so on the 2nd of June, when we reopened the show, I think that the meaning of our first intention was increased by new significance. And I hope that all of you who will be able to come to Rome within the terms of the show, it means that before August the 30th, will appreciate this meaning. I don't know if we can go on with the PowerPoint that I prepared, which is just accompanying my discussion. I wanted to start with the banner of the show, featuring the title that I mentioned with the new dates, and featuring also the second star, the 2nd of June. This is very significant. The first banner was the image of Raphael, was the self-portrait of Raphael, and we decided that it was perhaps more porte-bonheur for us to change it for the new version and to go ahead with this other one. So Baldassare Castiglione portrait, a masterpiece of Raphael from the Louvre, which is one of the most significant international loans we had And the exhibition is now the new image of the exhibition, and very, very significant for a series of reasons that I will try to explain during my lecture. So we can, you can do the next slide if you can. I think I'm not able to. Okay, this is the date again. Next. Exceptionally, the start of the exhibition is not in the first room of the museum. In this case, the first introduction with this painting that you are seeing is in the ground floor, which is usually only for entering the audience and not devoted to art works. We wanted to create a sort of chronicle of the death of Raphael. Next. And to present a representation of the scene of the death of Raphael, made by a French painter in charge by Napoleon, by Imperator Napoleon, to realize the scene of the death of Raphael according to all the chronicles of the epoch, especially Vasari. And we see in this amazingly realistic painting the artist in his deathbed, with the presence of the Pope, which Leo X, which is a crucial figure in all the Raphael activity in Rome. Leo X was the son of Lawrence the Magnificent, the mythical sovereign of Renaissance Florence. So he was an amazingly important figure of the Italian Renaissance of the late 400, and he's blessing the body of Raphael. He went. The Chronicle says that he went directly to the deathbed of Raphael because he was immensely grateful to this artist who was in charge to realize his hugely ambitious program of transforming Rome in a new capital of the Renaissance. The former capital was, of course, Florence, capital of the Medicis and so on. But once he came to Rome, he wanted to bring to Rome, with immense power, symbolic power of the city and of the power of the church, to transform it as the universal capital of all the Christian world. So the idea that the Pope kneels himself in front of Raphael is already a proof of this kind of inverted order of things. The artist is not making a homage to the Pope, but is the reverse. And all the artistic community present in Rome take part to this mourn, is represented here. There is even Michelangelo, which is not. He was not in Rome in reality, but he's represented in the painting. There is all the community of the humanists, among them Baldassare Castiglione, that we just mentioned, but many others. And there is all the people of Rome, because Raphael embodied the idea of harmony and the idea of art being the reason of the unification of the spirits. And so this is why this death, which arrived suddenly, totally suddenly, he died after only 8 days of very high fever. And it was very strange in the days, in the middle of the days of the COVID aggression, for us to understand how a very sudden death due to fever could be tragical for many people. The death of Raphael was immediately taken as the start of the sacralization of his figure, but differently from what happened with, for example, Michelangelo of Caravaggio. All the elements that could make plausible the glorification of Raphael and the divinization of Raphael were all real in a way. For example, the first element that is amazingly significant for it is that he died on 6th of April, which was the same day of his birth. It means he was born on 6th of April, 1483, and he died 6th of April of 1520. And so the circularity of his life is already something very symbolic, but also true. It's not an invention of the storytellers after that. There was also an immensely significant circumstance that he died on the Venerdì Santo. It means the day in which Jesus Christ died, so the Friday before the Sunday of Resurrection. And so the fact that he died in the same day of Christ was immediately used as a proof of his almost being divine. Another element which is totally true and totally correspondent to the real facts of his of the days it was that he was immediately after his death. He was the scene was enriched by the painting of the Transfiguration of the Mount Tower. So the scenery is not far from where you are listening to this lecture. The Transfiguration is the last masterpiece of Raphael. We can see it just behind the deathbed, and is a crucial painting, the last painting, the crucial one, which is still kept in the Pinacoteca Vaticana in the Vatican. Transfiguration is the iconography of this Transfiguration. It means the transformation of Christ and the prefiguration of his divine nature. Is already also this one is a proof of his at the time was felt as a proof of his transformation from a dead body into a divine soul, which will be running all this the art system for at least 4 centuries. A last very funny in a way circumstance that was shocked the people of the time was that in the same days, I mean, a day before and also the day of his death, there was a sort of static problem and issues and technical issues that for which the stability of the building of apostolic building near San Pietro was entered in a critical site. And so it was considered as a sort of an earthquake. So you all remember that the day of the immediately after the death of Christ, the gospel says that the earth trembled, so there was an earthquake. And so these static problems in the building of San Pietro was considered as a proof of the catastrophic significance of this death. 500 years later, we wanted to start from the divine signification of his death, from the general mourn that it generated in all the people of the time, and from the transformation much backwards, so from the death of him to the glorification of Raphael. So all the exhibition is a sort of mirror of this idea. For the people who perhaps is not familiar to Raphael, I wanted to put on display the painting of the Transfiguration, and which is really one of the most important after, and perhaps the most important one apart from the frescoes made in the Vatican. For example, you can see how important it was Michelangelo for Raphael, starting from the female figure in the first term of the painting, which is absolutely taken from the Sixtine Chapel. This is the upper part of the painting with the elevation of Christ in the clouds, and this is the lower part of the painting with the disbelief of the apostles in front of this amazing event. I wanted to also to show it to you a wonderful selection of drawings made by hand of Raphael related to the heads of these apostles. It is very, Raphael as a draftsman is really crucial because his artistic thought is mainly realized on paper, and for the painting he used a lot the help of pupils, because he had lots and lots of commissions, and he had also and he was not on all the realization, but what was completely belonging to his artistic will is the drawings. And these wonderful drawings that represent the real legacy of Raphael were realized perhaps in the last months of his life. Some of them are on display in the exhibition. The first glass case of the exhibition that I'm showing here in this slide, together with also other later representation of the scene of the death of Raphael, rounded by the muses, surrounded by the Pope, etc. So all the start of the exhibition is representing the chronicle of the death, the deathbed, the transfiguration. And I wanted also to show to you the place where all it happened, and also his important location in town. 5 years before he died, Raphael bought from Bramante, which was the major artist. It was the artist of San Pietro. Bramante was also from a native of Urbino, the same town of Raphael, and was perhaps the main responsible for his call to Rome by Pope Julius II. So Bramante was the crucial at first maker of the idea of the new Rome of the popes of the Cinquecento. And it's very significant that Raphael wanted, immediately after the death of Bramante, to go and live, and to stay and to live in a building realized by him. It was Palazzo Caprini. And Palazzo Caprini location was also very significant because it was immediately close to the former Piazza San Pietro. There is a drawing. Of course, Piazza San Pietro was transformed, starting from the Cinquecento and Seicento, also with the famous square of Gian Lorenzo Bernini that you all remember. And so there is nothing surviving of the former square and the former basilica. But in a drawing made by the Flemish artist Martin van Heemskerk, is the only image we have of what was like the square and the former basilica at the time of Raphael. And in the left side of the painting, you see the corner, the facade of Palazzo Caprini. This means that Raphael was immediately propitious to the place that he was transforming, that he was working at, so the Vatican. For example, on the right side of the drawing, there is all the Palazzo di San Damaso with the second order, the Vatican Logge, one of the major realization of Raphael at that time, the Loggia di Raffaello. So I wanted you to make clear how Raphael was involved in the same region of the Vatican, even living inside it. And also the Chronicle says how much he was running from his atelier in the study, in his house, and the Vatican. So he was going and going back all the time. So that happened in that building, and there was, as I said, the study of Raphael. The day after, which was Saturday before Easter, so perhaps in order not to celebrate a funeral in the day of the resurrection of Christ, Raphael was buried. He was buried in the Pantheon. And it was very uncommon, this decision, which is included in the will of Raphael, The will of Raphael didn't survive as a notary's deed, but is very well documented with lots of evidence in our documents. So we know very well what was the content of the will, although we do not know it in specific. But we know that he wanted to be buried in the Pantheon, which was very uncommon, perhaps because he was, in the last years, was the architect of San Pietro. He was transforming the Basilica. Not so many of his ideas were realized, because when Michelangelo took his place, he transformed quite radically the approach of Raphael and Bramante to the church. So we do not have a very precise idea, but it is not, of course, what we see now. But he has so much in mind that all the area was to be transformed and perhaps destroyed and rebuilt, that perhaps this was the reason why he refused to be buried in San Pietro, because perhaps his tomb could have been destroyed immediately after. So after San Pietro, the most symbolic place of the Christianity and his links with the antique times is the monument, the Roman monument of the Pantheon, which was, as you all know, transformed into a church in the late Middle Age. So it was a church, the Santa Maria ad Martires. So he was a sacred place, so he had the right to be buried there, although was a monument in very bad conditions. And the wills, we also know from his wills that part of his inheritance had to be spent in the restoration of the tomb of the Pantheon through its tomb with, he says, ancient marbles. So also the tomb, all the operation of his burial in the Pantheon is related to his main love of his late years. It's a love of ancient Rome, the love of the monumentality of ancient Rome, the love for the incredible symbolic importance of this ancient grandeur. And all the late years of Raphael are related to this supreme interest for the ancient perfection. Raphael wanted to provide the Pope with all the tools to transform the city and to make it huge, big and beautiful again, as it was in the Roman times. The exhibition, also the staircase of the Scuderie that takes the audience to the first room, is put on display a big painting by a late 18th, 19th century painter, which is the only representation made by the chronicles of the entering of the body of Raphael entering the portico of the Pantheon. And we see again all the city of Rome. The chronicle, the funeral are amazingly, they stress a lot the fact that old Rome was following the funeral, not only the priests and all the cardinals, but also the artists, the humanists, and all the people of Rome. And in this painting, you can appreciate how multitudinary it was, event it was. And we wanted, again, the people, the audience, to become familiar to this tale of the Death of Raphael. And this is also why, okay. Fallo tu. Non lo so. Yeah. Just a moment where we are. Non lo so, fallo tu. Ho scritto forse questo. Non lo so, non c'è scritto. So I go ahead. I mean, the Pantheon, as you see in this slide, I wanted to show you, I mean, everybody of you don't know the monument, but I wanted to show you a picture of it, showing the magic lighting of them coming from the upper hall, which is part of his of the magic of his structure. That was one of the few that arrived to us in tiles. So also the prodigious capacity of the Romans to build correctly the building is also important. The next slide show you the Tomb of Raphael, which is the tabernacle on the right of the slide. The left slide is the view of the Pantheon, and on the right side of the slide you can see the Tomb of Raphael. And on the right slide you can see the first drawing by Raphael of one of the many drawings he realized of the Pantheon in life, and so is also quite surprising and also quite touching for all of us to see that Raphael designed his own tomb. This is the one you can see in the middle of the drawing, but perhaps of course without knowing it will become his tomb, but for sure showing an interest, special interest in its architecture and in his special beauty. This is also a picture of the tomb. The show started, and this is also perhaps something you heard about because it was very much underlined by the media, by a special coup de théâtre, perhaps we can say so, spectacular item that we wanted to put on the first room, a reconstruction in 3D, in 3 dimensions, completely exactly like the original, made by the company which is leader in the facsimile realization in the world. They spent 7 nights in the Pantheon scanning all the surface of the monument to recreate and to rematerialize it. Why we wanted to do that? Why we wanted the audience to find in the first place the Tomb of Raphael, which is so easy to see in the Pantheon? Because we wanted to bring inside the show the quality, the architectural quality, the incredible monumentality of the scale, the incredible scale of the monument. Please consider that the facsimile is realized in 1:1 scale, so it's exactly the dimension of the monument, and also the sumptuousness of the marble, which was what Raphael adored, what Raphael wanted to reproduce all his life long as an architect and as an archaeologist, and in many occasions also as a painter. There is a lot of paintings where many Madonnas, for example, not only paintings in which architecture is displayed, where Raphael includes some elements related to the beauty of the ancient marbles and ancient architecture, which is exactly what we appreciate looking at his tomb. Another very interesting aspect of the tomb is the sculpture which is inside of it. I go back to the tomb to see that to let you see that the statue, which is inside the middle of the tabernacle, and which is in the middle of this slide, is a statue that he also commissioned expressively in his wills. He asked his main and trusted pupil in sculpture, which was Lorenzetto, to realize this sculpture, starting from as a copy of an ancient Venus, statue of Venus, that he was able to see in the same Vatican. It was excavated in this time. You can see it in the left side of the slide. This statue of Aphrodite, that was, so I repeat it, was very familiar. Raphael was very familiar with it because it was in the Vatican in the same year as Raphael was working there. you can see in the painting that the Madonna of the tomb and the Aphrodites of the Vatican is absolutely identical, especially in the lower part of the statue, where all the drapery is represented. It's very acrobatically and very dynamically. And it is a perfect example of what was looking for Raphael in the ancient statue, and what was the reason why he wanted to do that. Raphael wanted to go back to not only to beauty, but also to naturality, of the sort of nonchalance of the figure, as a plausibility of the figure, as a sort to let all the people believe that he could be real. And the secret of this way, of this manner, was the secret was kept by the stages of antiquity. This is why he was so much obsessed, we could say, by looking to ancient statues. On the right side of the slide, you can see another immensely famous statue, one of the most famous bronze that we keep in Roman bronze that we have in Italy, the winged victory kept in Brescia. This was not known to Raphael because he was excavated in late 19th century. But again, you can see, appreciate how this model was frequent in ancient times, and how it was celebrated also in different moods. So the Tomb of Raphael is the proof of his will to die in an ancient manner in the Pantheon, with an ancient with the Madonna that was copied on the statue of an Aphrodite. So the transformation, with very few differences of significance, from pagan antiquity to Christian modernity. And so is a synthesis, and at the same time is a symbol of all the last 10 years of work of Raphael, and in a way we can read all the career of Raphael as a sort of going towards the discovery of the secret of the naturalezza. I want to see it in Italian because it's a term that the ancient scholars say also all the time in this way, the way to make figures as natural as nature made them. Another aspect of the show is that I also already mentioned, is the mourn of the humanists, and is the theme of the start of the exhibition. In this view of the first room, you can appreciate how we related the Tomb of Raphael on the right to the late self-portrait of Raphael with a friend, which is perhaps one of the last paintings. He's usually dated 1519, but sometimes he's dated 1520, so a few weeks before he died. So in this painting, which is another incredibly important loan from the Louvre, we had from the Louvre, we see the face of Raphael. We can the picture of his face as he was a few times before his death, and he's here putting a hand on the shoulder of a friend. We are not sure about the identity of his friend, but we are sure he was not an artist, because we know them very well physiognomically, but we are sure that he was a humanist, he was a writer, he was a poet perhaps. And it means also, and it is a proof of the what was the community that Raphael was in the months of his life, not only of artists, but of poets, of scholars, of humanists, of specialists on archaeology, on ancient Latin, on Greek, on everything related to the culture of the world that was known at the age. And each scholar was not a normal one, was the best scholar that was at the time was recognized at the time. Raphael asked Leo X to call to Rome all of them, have around him, and to help him to create a program, this incredible program of renaissance of the antique splendor of Rome, based on the knowledge of all these people. And this is an especially important feature of Raphael, and in this is immensely different from Michelangelo, which was the titan, the solitary artist, making everything on his own without sharing anything, because he was a genius. And so he was much more related to the modern idea that we have of the artist. Raphael was a man of team, un uomo di squadra, as we usually used to say. He wanted to be the leader of a team composed by the more important specialists on each discipline. And this is immense. This is crucial to understand what Renaissance was, and what Renaissance was in Rome once Raphael arrived. Yes, in this slide is another painting related to the tribute of the Death of Raphael, which includes all these humanists. Raphael is not represented. It's the house of Raphael without Raphael, so it represents the mourn, the absence, the silence of his house immediately after his death. You can see also again the Transfiguration, but you can see Cardinal Bembo, you can see Giulio Romano, you can see Tebaldeo and Castiglione, you can see also Michelangelo, which again was not there in reality, and you can see the silence, the disbelief of all these people after this totally unexpected event that was interrupting with incredibly suddenly a process of growth of Rome, and it was enhancing an immense hope of the people to see the Rome becoming splendid again. I go back to this slide, and you can see at the left of the self-portrait two documents. Of course, you cannot appreciate what they are, but I want you to understand what they say, because it's crucial. And starting from the text of these documents, we designed the initial approach to the exhibition. The text is written is a diary of a Venetian artist and humanist, Marcantonio Michel, which was very famous at that age. Was dated April the 7th. It means that was something that was written on a diary, not on an official document that could have been perhaps modified or amplified or mythified or something. It's a diary. In the solitude of his room after the funeral of Raphael, this friend of Raphael and this witness of the scene of Rome, he was the correspondent, was a diplomat, was a correspondent of the Venetian Doge. So he was immensely engaged in telling to Venice what was happening in Rome. But in his own diary, he wrote the following: everyone in Rome is devastated by the death of Raphael. The people, of course, all the pupils. It was a sort of family. Raphael was the sort of father or older friend of all his pupils. There was also the humanists that were totally crying for this death, but mainly the poets and the writers and the archaeologists were the ones that appreciated the importance and the immense consequence of his death, which was not only the end of his capacity to realize artworks, which was immense, but was not only. The meaning of the Raphael death was that the interruption of the process that we mentioned already, that was embodied in a special endeavor he was doing in the last months of his life. And this special endeavor was called La Pianta di Roma Antica. It was the plan of ancient Rome, which was not only a map of Rome, or a distribution, architectural restitution of ancient Rome, was the first scientific attempt to realize an image, a representation, a picture of ancient Rome, starting from the remains, archaeological remains, and starting from the literary sources. Raphael had at his side all the people who was able to translate and understand Vitruvius, the main theorist of ancient architecture. So he was able to study the theory of ancient architecture, and he has archaeologists that were able to understand, starting from very little ruins, what could be the final image of the buildings, starting from the little remains we had. And all this immense endeavor, why immense? If you now come to Rome, you all go to see the Forum, you all go to see the remains of the antiquity, and you can see almost everything which was excavated or sometimes rebuilt, starting from these studies. But at that time, we had only stones, and very few, because the most part of the excavation came later, came starting from this age, but in the 17th century, in the 18th century, into modern times. So it was a mystery what was Rome, ancient Rome, and so the ambition of Raphael to understand this the splendor starting from these ruins were understood, especially by the main scholars of the time. The first room of the show, and the real room of the show, I mean, apart from the tomb that we see before, and which is also the end of my speech, is a especially significant room in which we had three masterpieces. The self-portrait that you saw a few minutes ago, the portrait of Baldassarre Castiglione, whose importance I'm going to explain just now, and the portrait of Pope Leo X, son of Lorenzo il Magnifico and the Medici, the representation of the Medici in Rome. These three figures are the main crucial figures that articulate this program at the time. Baldassarre Castiglione was a writer, was a special close friend of Raphael, and Raphael asked him to put in a good Italian a text that he was writing, which was a sort of introduction to this map of ancient Rome, so that the most important work of his life, perhaps, and whose rough copy, which is kept in the archive of Mantua in Lombardia, is on display in the show as a monument itself. This is called the letter of Raphael to Leo X. It's a very important document. It's the basis of our legislation about heritage, and is our Magna Carta, in a way, of the Italian idea of conservation. Is the first attempt to write with very strong words, with very strong concepts, the idea that any attempt to move forward to the future with beauty and knowledge is based on the knowledge of the past. You had, in order to build something significant, so to build a new Rome, you have to put your roots on ancient architecture. At those times, and we know, but also in the following centuries, to build something, you need material to build. And so you need stones, you need marbles. And to make marbles, they used ancient marbles. So until the moment Raphael wrote his letter to the Pope, The most part of the new edifications were made with ancient marble. So with ancient, to build something, you had to destroy something. This letter is a sort of prayer, but is a very authoritative, it's sort of not only an imploration, a sort of very intense request to the Pope to stop, to make a point to this horrible behavior, and to start and to understand the importance for any sovereign to let the technical say what is important and what has to be kept, and to distinguish it to what has not to be kept, perhaps, and can be destroyed. So knowledge and technical disciplinary knowledge is on the basis of any decision about conservation. This is very familiar to us, or to all of us, because to any restorer, to any architect related to ancient monuments, but it's not at all familiar to those times. Raphael says in this letter, when I arrived to Rome a few years ago, I had the possibility to admire some monuments that few years later already disappeared, they were destroyed. So what if in 10 years I have lost so many important elements of the past? What will happen for the future? So he is worrying about a legacy. He is worrying about us. In this letter, Raphael is worrying, is trying to understand the importance not for the present of the heritage, but for the future. We are only keeper of the legacy. We are not the owners of the legacy. And this is very important for Italy. This is, I think, very important for all the countries that are based on an ancient heritage. And of course, Israel is one of the first among them. So I think this is a concept I wanted to put in the middle of my speech, because it's the basis of any legislation about heritage, starting from Rome and going widely all around the world. So the importance of Raphael that anybody can understand, starting from his painting, is even bigger if we think, and the importance that he had about a theory of conservation, a theory of the concept that anything we can do is based on the respect we can have about the roots of our lives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you everyone for joining this Tama Friends event. I'd like to, of course, thank the ambassador, thank the director, Matteo Lafranconi, and thank you to Tanya for all of your time today. And I hope to see you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Penso di sì. Che ci sono. Io sono qua, non so se vogliono, mi sembra che abbiano abbandonato.
Funziona,